How's it going, everybody? My name's Antonio, and I'm on a shorter barbecue this week, but it's going to be an interesting one nonetheless because I have two Andrews with me. So that'll be Andrew Chubb, the CEO of Awale Resources, and Andrew Smith, the chief geologist of Awale Resources, who is an exploration company based in Cote d'Ivoire. Now, who's not here with us today, though, by the way, is your financial advisor. This is going to be a casual talk between a couple of people who you've likely never met. So for as far as you as a listener or viewer are concerned, this is going to be a conversation that's general and impersonal in nature, as well as a conversation that will include no financial nor professional advice of any sorts. And it's definitely not a conversation that you want to use as independent research because number one, Awale is a paying advertiser on this channel. I own shares of it, and both Andrews own shares of it as well. So we should be considered biased at all times. And this should be considered an advertisement and not independent research, as I said. And second, it's also not going to, it's also should not be used as independent research because it's going to include a lot of forward-looking statements about uncertain events that may or may not happen in the future. So please take the minute to pause the video and read the full warning that is on your screen right now, because this contains risk. Everything out there contains risk, but the mineral exploration industry is among the highest risk industries out there. So be careful with that. If you care about your money and you don't like losing it, do more research. Visit the company's website, visit the official filings on Sceptre.com, as bad as that might be these days, and consult a professional investment advisor before taking your own investment decision in the end. That all said, as you would know, Awale is an exploration company with rather large exploration assets totaling 2,500 square kilometers in Cote d'Ivoire on the Ivory Coast, that is in West Africa. And the company has managed to get a cornerstone investment from Newmont, as well as sign a JV with them, which currently has Newmont spending their own money on Awale's project, which has resulted in some assay results being released, which is why we are even talking here today. I'm not doing a full company overview since, as I normally do, since I did one that was like a 1.5 hour interview with Andrew Chubb about a month or so ago. So I'll direct you through that. I'll make sure to put some links somewhere. If you want to understand the company better, go and watch that. But I'll also try to shut up now and welcome both Andrews. Andrew, thank you both for being here.
Good to be here, Antonio.
Hi, Antonio. Good to be back.
Pleasure is all mine, of course. And Andrew Smith, I'm going to start off the bat right away with you because you and I don't know each other that well. So maybe you can give me an overview of who you are, what your background is, what are your responsibility within the company, and why do you think you're the right man for the job?
Okay, thanks. I've been around West Africa for about 13 plus years as a geologist. I've worked in almost all countries: Guinea, Mali, Senegal. So I've got quite a specialized view on Burundian geology and gold systems within West Africa. So for me, I'm a bit more of a field geologist. Classically, I know about the title chief geologist. I'm not really the sort of person that sits in the office somewhere. All my work is done in the field, and I lead the team and I train the team to try and essentially drive the projects. So I guess my job is the detail mate, is what I appear to be reputable for. So I'm here in Cote d'Ivoire. My family are here in Cote d'Ivoire. I moved them in January, so we're living in the country. Just fully committed to the project. We've got a relatively small team. We recently employed some people. We've got about 6 geologists, so we're quite lean, but we focus on high quality. So that's our kind of exploration mantra. And you'll see that with all the targets that we have, we don't have scattergun approach to our exploration. We have high quality drill targets. So that's why you keep seeing in the news flow, discovery, because we're focusing on high quality. And I guess that would lead to what our news release was recently.
And Andrew Chubb, do you agree with that? I mean, is that why you took him on?
Absolutely. I met Andrew as a much younger geologist and did realize at an early stage that he was asking lots of questions and thinking about what he was doing. And so I thought we were pretty lucky to get Andrew on board when I rang him up and said, how about you come and work with us? So, yeah, and it is fantastic to have him in country and driving the team. And like he said, looking at the detail, that's important. in any exploration activity, being systematic, looking at the detail, and making sure you're picking the best targets.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about that, by the way, about having him in country? I don't know how usual that is, but talk to me about why that's basically worth the spend to have, a full-time geologist on the ground.
I think it makes it easier to have focus. I mean, I've done the same thing myself. I lived in Burkina Faso for just under 5 years, and was fully project focused. And that's what you are. You are project focused. You get to know your team better. The team starts to view, as an expat team, I think the team views you differently as well, because you're in country and you're in it with them. And so I think you get better buy-in from your crew, from that perspective as well. And you've just got the opportunity to be really hands-on with the geology and paying that attention to detail. And from a personal perspective, I think you actually can find a better family work balance if you've got a family too. So there's just multiple factors that make it a good thing for the company and for the people involved.
How's that in terms of expenses? Like, I think I understand what you're telling me. I have a wife as well, so I can only imagine how that would be if I had to travel a lot. She wouldn't be happy. She'd be less happy than she is now. But how is that? What's the spend on that sort of whole thing?
Well, it does. I mean, it does cost a little bit more. And look, Abidjan is not the cheapest place in the world to rent property and all that sort of thing. But you offset that against fly in, fly out costs and all those sorts of things as well. So, but yeah, it is. I mean, it is more expensive to have someone in country than have someone fly in, fly out. But I think the value from those factors I gave you just before, that value far outweighs the cost.
Just to elaborate on that, also the other thing is the value in time. So you're working on long stints and then going away. Things don't always move as quickly as you should. So I've noticed just by living here and working here that things are moving quicker, and I actually think that's probably one of the best value add for me being in country is these things are just moving quicker, which I think is critical for what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course. Okay. Well, let's talk about things that have been moving recently, which was the recent news release of the assay results. And Andrew, by the way, I watched an interview of yours right after the news release, and you sounded like you liked what came back from the lab. There was a quote from you also in that news release basically saying that you're happy with the results that these targets keep delivering. The market didn't seem to care, though. Why do you think that the volume didn't increase too much? Stock price didn't move?
Yeah, I don't know. I think everyone's probably in the same boat a little bit. There doesn't seem to be a lot of movement in the markets anyway. On one hand, perhaps we're just happy that we maintained our position rather than some sort of small liquidity creation and a drop at a crazy drop in share price or something like that. So, but I think people are interested in the projects and they're still watching. And hopefully, I think we'll continue to produce good results. So I think the footing is there, and when the time's right, people will start coming back into the market and investing in the company. There is more drilling catalysts to come, and there's Newmont does remain interested in the company from a corporate perspective as well. So that's always a positive, and there's some of the discussions that I've been having too. So I'm sort of comfortable that where we are. It'd be nice to have a better share price. Everyone always wants a better share price, but I'm sort of I guess that's the way I see it. Is that markets are probably not that good at the moment, and people are watching rather than putting money into things at the moment.
Well, but so here's the thing. Why I'm asking that is because the way I see it, you have a free trading date coming up in about 3 or so weeks, and that's from your May capital raise, and basically it's up to you as a company to create demand between that period. So in those 4 months and now in those 3 weeks, to create demand for shares, so that if something were to happen, although the capital raise was done with well, strategic investors, that being Orecap and so on and so forth, that's absolutely worth noting. There still could be some supply of shares, and it's sort of your responsibility as a company to create demand for those shares. And you say that you have corporate updates or news possibly, coming in the future, you say, but is that possibly in that period?
Yeah. So we are expecting results to come through in the ensuing month on some of the drilling that we've done. So we've got those sort of things as catalysts, and like I said, I have been having various discussions, which actually means that sort of I guess I'm privy to some information that is not public knowledge at this stage, and so that will come out, I think, in the ensuing month. So and beyond that, we will be talking to our investors, people who are invested in the company, ensuring that trying to ensure that they're happy with their position in the company. And the people that I've spoken to, I think they're happy with the direction that we're moving. So trying to make sure that people are either wanting to buy more stock or at least holding their position as we move into that potential liquidity at the end of the month or at the end of September.
Okay, so you're now doing something that I guess prohibits you from buying shares. I mean, because I wondered, you say this improves the company, but it doesn't move the stock price. And if I'm, sort of in the shop and I see something, being discounted, I would try and buy it. And so I always wondered, when CEOs say these things, why are they not buying their own stock in that point?
Yeah, well, I guess that's it. I mean, so quite often it is difficult. It is quite often you are in a position where you are aware of things that are happening with the company, but it's not public information, and it's not, you're sort of in a blackout, and you're not really in a position to be trading stock, because there is that awareness.
Okay. Well, it's interesting what you've been coming out with in terms of results, because I do want to switch the focus to sort of a more technical discussion, maybe, because the main geological thesis that you're working with, as you've told me last time, during the during the split of the continents, with that being South America splitting out of Africa, you think basically the deposit got almost split in not in half, but split there. And you're looking at what's on the other shore of the ocean. It's going to be the Carajás province, which contains 8 billion tons of almost 8% copper, 0.9% or something along those lines. But then looking at Sceptre, and Andrew Smith, I guess you could also answer that, I mean, or not, but looking at Sceptre, that came back showing, less than 0.4% of copper. So do you guys think the thesis is still intact here?
I mean, the key thing here is it's about scale, really. And in itself, Sceptre East is part of a trend which is almost 6 kilometers long. And what we're doing at Sceptre East is at the moment, we've found maybe 700 by 300 meters wide of just mineralization and alteration. That's completely open. But that's part of a 7 kilometer or 6 kilometer corridor, where we've got multiple footprints, multiple targets, but we've broken down to targets all the way along. So in terms of scale, it's still there, but the restriction on scale is the limit of the drilling that we've done. So it's essentially data poor. But what we have seen is just evidence of the fluid and the size of that alteration system. So from our point of view, look, we're pretty pleased. These things tend to be zoned. So we have a bit of a philosophy here, is sort of know where you are. So again, this is what we're doing with for example, Sceptre East. It's actually know where we are in the system. So with intrusive related systems, and sometimes even, like, for example, maybe people understand porphyry systems, is that you get zonation. So what we're working on is working out where we are in that system. Because what we're looking for here is we're getting the copper component, or it potentially could be the outer copper component, and we're also looking for the higher grade gold. So we're looking at something like bulk tonnage. We're looking at things at more than maybe over half a gram gold. So at the moment, we're working out where we are in that system, and then we're going to vector out exploration to try and find essentially the core or where the good stuff is. We'll probably allude to deeper drilling later in the conversation, and it's not just limited to Sceptre East. It's the same for Charger and other targets. But in terms of the alteration system, it still ticks the boxes. These sort of hybrid systems. And I think the fact that it's not just a single target, we've got at least 5 high-quality drill targets. So that's the scale. I think that's what's really important for, I guess, for investors to understand. It's the scale of the system, and it wouldn't just be limited to our permit. That's why we've been pegging all the way along the structure. So for me, it's just we're just getting into the system as we understand it. So it's very, very encouraging for me.
It's interesting that you should mention that you would be looking sort of for the heart of the system. How do you look at Sceptre East now, knowing what you know now that's come back from the lab in the concept of this mirroring the Brazilian IOCG province? Like, this is not the heart of the system then, I assume, but does it look more like it might? So it looks like you're on the edges of the system now, is it?
I guess, I mean, we've really only got 3 diamond holes into Sceptre East where we've really got a first look in. So I don't want to jump ahead and start really producing strong analogs. What we do know is that within these IOCG style systems, you get different styles. It's not like as we say, like a sort of IOCG central structure. You get variations on it, variations and alterations. You can have potassic alteration is very strong. You can have albertization. So you get that your district-wide alteration can change. So that's what we're doing at the moment. We're seeing our district-wide alteration that we're going to do connection to is that potassic alteration seems to be our sort of wider district-wide alteration system. That's something similar that you see down at in Australia, for example, around Olympic Dam. You could have skarn systems, you can have potassic alteration, you can get hematite, uranium. So there's IOCG systems tend to have a lot of variety to them. So that's the key thing, I think, when we're exploring, is not to sort of pigeonhole. We see one style and go, this is what we're looking for. We're open to many styles. So for something like Sceptre East, it appears to have more of a kind of classic porphyry style that you'd maybe see in South America. With sort of copper moly in the system and gold. So again, this is what I was talking about, is we have to understand where we are. If you look at something like Charger, or even other targets that we have, like visually anyway, that we see in the other targets we've drilled, we're seeing things like hematite and magnetite, which is that would be your sort of your O from your IOCG systems. So we tend to look at these things on always at a bigger scale when we see these things. So just going back to maybe more specific on your question, on targeting for something like Sceptre East, it's clearly a sulfide target. There's a lot of connectivity. There's a lot of sulfide. We ran some 50-meter pole dipoles, sort of shallow, and so 200-meter pole dipoles. So these give you these sort of sections, really, or inversions, where you can see potential anomalies at depth. And Sceptre East has a monster IP anomaly at depth, 500 to 700 meters below surface, that suggests that there's something special down there. What we've got to do is we can't justify drilling deeper holes without doing the work at surface. So what we need to do is understand the alteration system to motivate and then get the sign off to do these deeper holes. So sometimes we just need to drill a bit shallow just to get that understanding before we start looking for the big one, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
But I mean, just in addition to that, so Sceptre East is copper, moly, gold, silver, sort of end member in that Sceptre trend. We do get some really, so you talked about it. Broadly, we got 300, 200. What was it, Andrew? 358 meters.
60 meters of mineralization. Yeah.
of mineralization, which came back at 0.34 equivalent. So, within that, there is zones where there is higher grades, and the other drilling that we've done, we got zones at higher grades as well. And as Andrew said, in that Sceptre East system, we've actually only drilled a few holes, and we're still learning sort of where we are. And so with further drilling, there is opportunity there, and there is just at Sceptre East alone, there is huge scale there. What we call the Sceptre East prospect is more than 1.5 kilometres long and half a kilometre wide, where we're seeing this mineralisation. So there is it's huge in itself. I think there is excellent opportunity there, and Andrew mentioned, it is a sulfide system. So the IP, the induced polarization, is actually looking really at sulfide and sulfide content. So the higher the chargeability, the more connected the sulfides are, which means that you've got a higher concentration of sulfide. So, as a rule of thumb, if you've just got disseminated sulfides that are not touching, you get something that might be 7 to 15 or 20 millivolts per volt as a chargeability. And then as you ratchet that up, those sulfides are becoming more concentrated and becoming interconnected. So it holds the current that into the ground by the geophysics. And so it just means you've got more sulfides, and so that's what Andrew's alluding to. And I think we can probably put up some slides as part of this, Antonio, so people can actually see that deep IP section. So we did one deep IP section right through the middle of Sceptre East that really shows up that chargeability target.
Yeah, I think so, Andrew. I think one thing to think about is what people are normally interested in. Like if this was sort of bog standard, we'd be like, anything between 9 and 15 would get you interested. But this is 6 times that. The response is six times. So that's very, very interesting. It really is quite interesting, compelling for us.
Well, what I'm thinking about is how the market is thinking about this. So, obviously as a shareholder, I'd like to see some liquidity coming back into the stock, and I'm thinking what could bring back that liquidity. And you made the first discovery you made in 2020 or something along those lines, I think. And that would be, so you've been there for 3 years now. How long do these things normally take, like before you actually know where, because what I'm hearing here is that you're basically still situating yourself and knowing, you're looking for sort of where to go, you're looking for pathfinder elements and so on and so forth. So you're not necessarily after resources or after, big grades now is not what you care the most about. You care about figuring out where you are and where you go next. But it's been 3 years since you made the first discovery. So how much longer before you can actually do something more significant, I guess is what I'm asking.
I think that's really not that far away, Antonio. And these things are always budget dependent. So when you say it's been 3 years, it's been 3 years, but we haven't had a huge budget. We made a good discovery at Empire, and drilled that to a point sort of where we understood that particular system, and it warrants deeper drilling itself. I mean, it's open at depth, and there's also offset targets which are at depth as well. But again, it was budget dependent, and we couldn't justify as a small company looking for near surface resources to think about drilling expensive and deep holes on that Empire target. So it's been sitting there waiting to be continued to be drilled as well. So really since then we've made a Charger discovery, we've made the Sceptre discovery, we've now drilled some other targets as well, because we wanted to bring them into our ranking system and making sure that we are absolutely giving ourselves the best chances of good discoveries. And all these new targets as well. They've got the scale of these things are standalone scale. It's not like so the geochemical targets that we're doing this early scout drilling on, all of these have actually the size that can be standalone, and that it's within this district. So, we do need to bring them into play and understand what they are as well, to make sure that where we are spending our money is the right place to be spending our money. And I think that gear change is not that far away.
Okay, but then next year you do expect to be drilling some deeper holes, I believe. Or at least that we said, that's what sort of the quote from the news release said, that you're talking about Charger. So maybe you can talk to me about that, and also talk to me about why Charger, and why deeper holes at Charger, and why not something else, and also how you even know that, because we haven't seen BBM Orlando, which are interesting targets, as you said, multi-kilometers geophysical anomalies that might also yield some interesting stuff. So is next year, let me just try and tie this up, but is next year the year that you drill deeper holes? Where do you drill them, and why?
I think we've already done the why in that. So, I mean, Andrew, and I'm sort of Andrew. You can talk about this, but we will be drilling deeper holes next year. I'm very confident of that, and we just trying to make sure that we, like I said, we're drilling those in the best scenario.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, something like Charger, for example, it's got alteration, it's got grade, and the setting, and then we've modeled that it potentially has the scale as well. And look, it's pretty close to surface, so we can get that understanding pretty quickly. It really is. It's giving us economic rates. That's the key thing, and it has volume potential. And I think for any explorationist, that's a big tick. When you've got the alteration and strain and especially grade. Look, when you tend to get visible gold in systems, they tend to be big systems. So visible gold we saw in Empire, and then now we're seeing it at Charger as well. But it's not just the gold that's carrying the grade. The other alteration within it is also solid. It's very robust grades, is how I would say to Andrew. So that in itself is our understanding of Charger is further than some of the other targets. So that's why that would warrant deeper drilling. Again, we've got a model that we think that if we drill deeper, we will get more success. And if we step out, we will get more success. That's what we're sitting at the moment. So Charger for me is very easy in that sense, because the grade is king, and as a target, it's very compelling. And it's the same for some of the other targets that we have. Is different targets will we look at it and go, well, this target is more linear, and we can get volume quicker. So we always look at our geology in terms of economics. I think that's key. We're not just sort of running around patting ourselves in the back because we're having technical success. We're quite driven to find viable economic deposits. So Charger for me is excellent in that sense. As we understand it further, we expect it to maybe get close to that advanced target. So when you get things to advanced target, you're just a few drill holes away to get it to resource. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to push all the targets up to that advanced stage, and then get them pushed over to resource. So Charger and Empire are probably two that are a little bit more advanced, and they're closer to the resource. So what we're trying to do is with the other targets, we'll bring them up to the same level. And visually, they all look excellent. And we might be in a comfortable position where we have multiple targets that we can push over. That's our ideal scenario, Andrew, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a bit like, Antonio, in anyone's investment portfolio, I think everyone tries to spread risk. And so we're actually really lucky as a company that we have the opportunity to spread that risk across fantastic targets and make sure that we're spending the money in the right spot. And there are many companies out there that maybe have got one or two targets at best, and often those targets don't even look as good as the ones that we've got. So you know, we are really lucky, and I guess there has to be a little bit of patience in a way to make sure that we're putting that dollar in the right in the right places at the right time.
There has to be patient. Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, go ahead.
Well, and just because we've got Newmont's money, we don't. I mean, this is why Newmont likes working with us as well, is because we do these things to make sure that we are, you know, we are spending money in the right place, and you know, we're not just you know, randomly spending. We would never randomly spend money, but we're not just pushing money anywhere that they're providing. We're actually making sure that we're getting maximum value for the dollar that we spend.
I like what Andrew Smith said there, that it's not you're not only looking for technical success, you're looking for economic success, because that's an important part to me. I just have to be sure that you're treating this as a company and not as a science project. Again, from what you're telling me here, that's what I'm hearing that you're not doing, so that's good. But I still have to ask these questions, and I have to make sure that's the case. Let's maybe go through sort of your targets that you have going on right now, and you tell me what's higher priority and what's not, because you have 3 discoveries. You have Empire, you have Charger, you have Sceptre. Empire seems to be a gold primary target. Charger is coming up with more gold than copper. Sceptre is more copper than gold, as far as I understand it. That's your discoveries. But then there's BBM, there's Lando, there's Lancer, there's Alliance, there's Vakaba. Can you just tell me, knowing what you know now from this news release, how'd you sort of rank them in terms of importance?
Yeah, like I said, we're trying to push these targets towards the advanced stage, and that's the sort of priority. What we should say is that all they're drilling now is diamond. I think that's critical. So we're past the sort of the footprint and surface geochemistry stage. There's no auger drilling, there's no RC. We're going in with the diamond. So the idea is that we get better quality geology and we can move the targets quicker. So, for example, we recently drilled BBM, and those are scout holes. So just as an example, visually, looks really promising. And what BBM has is, in terms of the model, it's maybe a little bit more traditional. It's on a shear zone. So we've got a 4-kilometer open gold anomaly surface. We drilled 500 meters apart, and we've seen some fantastic geology. So in terms of priority, as you drill, you know, things change. Things could be really, oh, that's really exciting. So if we were looking to, for example, accelerate a resource, we already know we've got 2 potentially high grade deposits. And then you have something like BBM that has scale, that has volume. Then your priority, just depending on how we want to go ahead, if we're looking for a resource, you think we've got volume and we've got grade. So that's when you might be the trigger to go, yeah, these targets are our priority, so we can basically get some sort of resource runs on the board. So that's sort of where we are, and that's where Lando was targeted, because again, that's got scale as well. So that's what it kind of comes down to. Again, we're looking for volume and we're looking for grade, so we're looking for economics. That's how we prioritize things, is what do we think is going to give us the best chance of a high quality resource. Okay,
well that's making more sense to me now that we're going through it like that. Next news release, you say it's coming soon. What's that gonna have in it?
Well, the results as they come through. So I think the next is probably Lando, and then some further follow-up drilling at Charger, and then subsequent to that would be BBM and Sceptre main.
Yeah.
Depending on what order the lab manages to get those through. So, but Sceptre main was the last target BBM was the last target that we drilled. Is that right, Andrew? Sorry.
BBM, yeah, that's right. So yeah. So it looks like yeah. I think Charge will be first. I think we're able to produce that, and then we should be able to do it target by target, I hope. But like you said, we'll see what the lab says.